Joining me now, Brendan Deeg, NFL news editor for the Score, Double Doink podcast host. Good morning, Brendan. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Hey, Phil, what's going on? How's your Friday doing? Or how's your Friday going, I guess?
Yeah, Friday's going great so far because we wake up and it just sunk in a little bit more that the Eagles made such a great trade yesterday, bringing in Jahan Dotson from Washington. So let's just dive right into it. When you heard that news break yesterday, what was your instant reaction to that trade?
This is good business by Howie Roseman. I like the move right at the gate. When I saw that the 5th round pick was also coming back, I was like, damn, like this looks like good value. This is a trade that I would have made just right at took me 5 minutes to realize like this is something that I would have done. I know like the wide receiver 3 position isn't like get heavy usage on the Eagles offense. However, it is an important role. Like there's about 1,100 snaps that they need to replace from last year. Like, and it was filled by Julio Jones. Britton Covey got some run at some point. Quez Watkins. Like they went through a boatload of guys last year. I'm trying to remember if I'm missing it. Olamide Zaccheaus as well. So they needed to fill that role. And John Ross, Johnny Wilson, they had Britton Covey running in camp. Like there were a ton of guys they were trying to fill that hole with that just wasn't working in camp. It was a clear hole that they need to fill. And when I was counting the targets, there was also 66 targets that went through the guys that I listed before. So they needed to do something at this position. And it also just adds depth behind. If someone gets hurt, I think it's the big one here. Like if Devonta Smith or AJ Brown suffer like a knee sprain, they go down for 6 weeks or they're out for an extended period of time. Like John Ross was wide receiver 2, and that's what
I keep bringing up. That's what because it does obviously make the slot position better than it was last year, better than it was going to be before the trade. But we've been blessed with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I think they combined missed 1 game over the last 2 years. I mean, law of averages, maybe one of them gets hurt. You don't want John Ross. You don't want Quez Watkins or Zaccheaus filling in that spot on the outside. Jahan Dotson can, and he has played, just as many snaps on the outside as in the slot in his 2 years in Washington.
Yeah, so I think when I was looking up this, his usage last, right when the trade was made. So the stats that I found, 45% in the slot, 55% outside. He actually played around 70% on the outside in 2022 and about 30% in the slot in 2023 or in 2022. Sorry. So his outside usage was surprising to me. Like when he was coming at Penn State, he kind of seemed like a slot guy only, kind of like a shifty guy, can get open, is able to do like kind of deep crossers through the middle. And then he was kind of used differently in Washington. Now, another reason why I love this trade is it kind of just opens up a bunch of opportunities for Devonta Smith to come inside, AJ Brown to come inside. Like it doesn't handcuff them where they have to put these guys in specific spots. So he's versatile as well. And I think he fits really nicely with these two. He's also a Philly guy, went to Penn State, and the equivalent of the draft pick from the charts that I was looking at, it's about a mid 4th round pick to an early 5th round pick, which is good because I was looking at like wide receiver contracts over the last couple of years. So like, let's say they needed to do something about this in free agency this year or last year. You're looking at giving a guy like Darnell Mooney signed for 3 years, $39 million this offseason. Like, and that would be kind of the ballpark that you're looking to hit on. And I wouldn't want to give up 8 to 12, 13 plus $million for a wide receiver 3. Like, this is a smart way to attack it. You give up a late A3 pick and you have him under contract for 2 years and only $4 million cap hits over the till 2025. So I just think it was
more Howie being just Howie, just thinking next level, playing chess, not checkers with the rest of the NFL.
And this is how he's attacked the wide receiver position, which I think is smart. Like he made the trade for AJ Brown, he traded up to get Devonta Smith. He hasn't attacked like the free agency wide receiver market is a gong show. Like that's not where smart teams kind of fill that roster spot. So yeah, I just think it was good business by Howie.
Absolutely. So how do you think that? Because there's been a lot of. We're now over with camp. Obviously, tomorrow's the final preseason game. Then Howie cut down season starts. How do you see now that you've got Dotson here? How do you see the rest of the wide receiver room playing out? Because I track, the average amount of, people that make the, initial 53-man roster. He did only keep 4 on the initial roster last year. He normally keeps 5. I think once he kept 7 over the last 6 or so years. Obviously, Dotson being here pushes everyone down the line a little bit here. who do you think's the odd man out, and who's going to be the ones that make these final roster spots?
I think the biggest losers here were Paris Campbell and John Ross. They're expendable.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're on 1-year deals. They were basically dart throws at the wall to see if they can fill this position. So I think they're the biggest losers of this trade. Johnny Wilson's a lock, in my opinion. He's going to get a roster spot, so that's 4. And then from there, like, is Britton Covey a lock? They seem to really like him in the building. He played really well in special teams last year. He's one of the best punt returners in the NFL. So does he fill that role again? Now, they did draft some guys that can do that, like Anais Smith is a guy that technically can return punts. They have a few other guys. So, like, are they going to keep Britton Covey just for special teams? And then Anais Smith as well. Apparently he has, he hasn't played very well at the start of training camp. He was starting to show a little bit of juice towards the end. Do you really want to put a 5th? Was he 5th or 6th round pick? I think he was.
He was 5th. Johnny Wilson was 6th.
Yeah. So do you really want to put a 5th round pick through waivers for the chance of him to get scooped? So they have some tough decisions to make here. But I this trade to me, like, you says that John Ross and Paris Campbell are not making the roster.
So
one of them was going to.
Yeah, I think Howie loves to play the game of who can get to the practice squad. And in this day and age, with the new kickoff return rules and all the different rules out there, last year they were able to get Britton Covey through the practice squad to start the season. That's why he wasn't part of it. Then they eventually added him to it. I think they could get Johnny Wilson through to the practice squad. I know he's had a really good camp, but he's a 6th round pick. I mean, he started off hot, got banged up a little bit. I don't think any team is going to just, rush to scoop him up. So I'm kind of debating between him and Smith making that 5th wide receiver spot there. I don't know, but Britton Covey, I don't even think is a lock to get picked up if they pass him through the waivers.
Yeah, and to your point, like, I just kind of going by what the team is telling you, like, Johnny Wilson was getting a lot of run at wide receiver 3 before the trade. So it does signal that they did really like him, and he's been out with a concussion, I think, for the last maybe just over a week. So yeah, like, it's hard to tell what they're thinking because they were trying everyone at this position at wide receiver 3, and like it's going to be who can contribute on special teams. Theoretically, Johnny Wilson is a guy that can contribute on special teams going downhill. Anais Smith is a guy that's probably only going to give you return ability. I don't know if he's going to be out there making tackles as a punt gunner and stuff like that. So yeah, it's honestly, like, I don't really have a strong take on it. I'm going to be really curious. I do, like I said, I do think this does say the end of, like, Paris Campbell has been in and out of camp. He's been injured. He was like the 6th wide receiver on the New York Giants last year. So, like, there wasn't a lot of juice there. They were hoping he could kind of resurrect his career. They liked him coming out of that draft too. They would have taken him if Indianapolis didn't draft him at that. I think they were going to take him over. It was JJ, I think, Whiteside at that point, right? Like, they really liked Paris Campbell coming out of that draft. So they were just going back to their old scouting roots and saying, let's see if we can get him back in here, or get him in here, and resurrect his career. And then the John Ross thing was just an experiment, right? Like, well, let's see if we can get this former 1st round pick back to its potential. And of course, like, he's 28 years old. It's been a while since he's even had like 400 yards, and he hasn't played football in like 2 years. So yeah, like, I just think it spells the end of those two guys. And then, yeah, I guess we'll see how they try to navigate this, because Howie has in the past been burned by the waiver thing, where he tries to get a guy through and he doesn't read the league well. But I wouldn't risk losing a guy like Johnny Wilson. Like, I just love the profile. He's 6'6", 6'7". He's a younger guy. I wouldn't put that through. I wouldn't put a guy like that through waivers. But
trying to go through my notes here to find it. So the last time they kept more than 5 wide receivers was 2020, when they kept 7. Is there a scenario where maybe they go a little light at another position to make sure they keep Johnny Wilson, Anais Smith, and stuff like that?
7 seems heavy. Like, I think five, maybe 6 is probably where they're going to go.
Gotcha. So overall, though, outside of the wide receiver position, obviously we're stacked, and people are laughing at you in the comments that you had to bring up J-Jaw, his name in the episode. Gone are the days of having to worry about those kind of wide receivers getting targets on this Eagles team. But overall, feelings from camp and stuff like that, this offense seems to be, all intents and purposes, on par to be one of those elite offenses that we've grown used to seeing in Philadelphia. Are you feeling positive? Are you feeling the vibes are there? Are you feeling that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are on the same page, that Jalen Hurts really, truly, not just in practice, but really does have an understanding of this new offense?
Yeah. I think all the reports have been positive. He threw his first interception at camp. I'm actually kind of happy that whole saga's over with. Like, just kind of getting it.
I'm telling you, what's gonna be broken first? The Jalen Hurts interception record or Cal Ripken Jr.'s consecutive game, played. What's a bigger record in Philadelphia or in sports period right now?
Yeah, it was like the classic radio talk.
Like
I think Nick Wright and those guys picked it up on First Things First. Like,
yeah.
I'm just happy that it was over with. Like, interceptions in training camp are where they're supposed to happen. It's completely fine if he throws picks there. But yeah, it's all looking good. Kellen Moore has been hyping him up at every press conference. Nick Sirianni's been talking about AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. I think we're just on John Clark's podcast, and they said that he's been doing really well in camp as well. Like, all signs point to being good. However, we have to see it on the field. I've been thinking about this because I'm diving into my NFC East preview on my podcast. I'm kind of thinking like what went wrong last year. I think I could be wrong here. Like, I might be galaxy braining this, but a lot, like, they really struggled against the pressure last year. That was their downfall. They couldn't figure out how to handle exotic blitzes coming at you. Like the protection calls from Jason Kelsey were not matching what the defense's was coming at you. I really do think there was just a big disconnect between Brian Johnson calling this offense. It's not his offense. It's Nick Sirianni's offense. And he's trying to figure out protection schemes with his center to counter what defenses are throwing at him. Like, I really just do think there were too many chains in the link, like Sirianni to Johnson, Johnson to Jason Kelsey, Kelsey to Hurts. I really just think it got too complicated. It got too overwhelming. They couldn't figure out like how to properly stop the blitzes. Like, teams were blitzing Jalen Hurts on third down at like a 60% rate last year towards the end. They spammed it. The league average is about 38%, to put that in perspective. That kind of blew my mind when I was doing that research. So I really do think just having one guy in Kellen Moore just running the show, it doesn't have to go through 6 different headsets to get to the right call. I think this is really important. And I liked the Kellen Moore hire from the start. Like, he's ran really good offenses when he's had a healthy quarterback. If you look at since 2019, if he's had his quarterback start 12 plus games, he's never had worse than a 12th DVOA offense, and it's been top 5 2 times. So he at the floor, to me, like, they finished 10th in offensive DVOA last year. Like, that should be the floor this year. Like, I forgot like how like good they were at the beginning and how bad it got towards the end, because 10th kind of blew my mind. I'm like, that's not what it looked like towards the end. Like, they were one of the worst offenses in the league towards the end. So if they can just like figure out the pressure stuff, like force teams to not rush 6 at you or 60% of the time at you on third down, and force teams to do different things, because what teams were doing was just playing too high. Like, Jalen Hurts also saw the most too high shell coverages in the league, because they were just begging him to underthrow, and the Eagles just wanted to push it deep. Like, I really do think the Kellen Moore addition is the biggest addition to this team, and I really do think it's going to work. And it's all signs point to it working in camp.
So obviously the Eagles addressed the weakness at the wide receiver 3 position. The biggest offensive concern I have right now is the depth on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. Obviously Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Cam Jurgens-Dickerson, they're lock solid, all pro level players. Becton has won that right guard. I still have some question marks there. But in my opinion, on my eye test, I go by eye test, not analytics, for a lot of my opinions. The backups that have played in the preseason have not looked very, very good. And I know they're backups and they're playing with Kenny Pickett and whatnot. Are you concerned at all about the depth on the Eagles offensive line if Lane Johnson goes down for 3 or 4 games, if Becton can't play right guard, Jurgens can't play center? Like, whatever happens there, like, to me, there's a big disaster looming if one of those guys goes down for a significant period of time.
Yeah, that's my biggest worry with this team is it wasn't wide receiver 3. It was always going to be the offensive line. Specifically right guard is my biggest worry. Like, love Mekhi Becton. I predicted he was going to win the job in camp. Was never high on the Tyler Steen pick. When they took him, I thought that was one of more Howie's questionable picks. Like, he doesn't have a ton of tools to work with, and now he's losing the job to Mekhi Becton. I think that kind of goes to show what the Eagles think of him as well right now. I love it in the run game, but like pass blocking, it's a new position for Mekhi Becton. Can he hold up there? And then if he goes down, or like you said, Lane Johnson goes down, like, my guess is they're going to kick Becton to guard or Becton to tackle. He hasn't really crossed a ton there this offseason, but they haven't really worked Tyler Steen as well at tackle. Like, Fred Johnson seems to be the 6th offensive lineman or the swing tackle right now. And I'm not at camp, but there's been some reports that he's been kind of getting cooked by Bryce Huff at some points, and there's been a lot of not like the most positive swing on Fred Johnson. So yeah, like losing Lane Johnson has always been a massive issue for this team. I think the record like is it's a huge swing from when he's healthy to when he's not healthy. And I remember the suspension as well. Was that the 2020 year when he got suspended for 6 games for PADs? Yeah, like, and then the team just fell apart without him, right? So there's that my biggest worry. Like, they need Lane Johnson to stay healthy, and they need the Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton to stay healthy as well. Like, this isn't the Eagles' offensive line depth of old. Like, they are always it's always been Stoutland University, where they have just a bunch of guys they can throw in there and play at least average to mediocre football for you. Trevor Keegan, I'm intrigued by. Darian Kennard apparently I think it was Lane Johnson was hyping the hell out of Darian Kennard on a podcast last week. So like there's some intriguing guys, but like very unproven.
You don't go into a season with intriguing guys when you're trying to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you need guys, you know what you're getting. And you know, obviously after Saturday, cut down season starts, Howie's going to be, watching that waiver wire and listening to phone calls on trade opportunities. And I know there's issues on defense at depth at safety, maybe at some other positions along the defensive line. But I think Howie's biggest target and eyes are going to be mostly focused on trying to find someone that's on waivers that can play guard, play tackle, play everything, play back. I still don't know what you do at backup center. I know the Eagles like Brett Toth, in that role, but I mean, he didn't look that great in the last 2 preseason games. So, like, I think Howie's going to have all of his focus on this waiver wire, focused on offensive linemen that are getting put on it.
Offensive line is the hardest position to find waiver wire guys and free agent guys, because teams don't give up good offensive linemen. Like, this is the most important position outside of quarterback in football. So like that's like free agency and waiver stuff. Like, you rarely find a hit like that. Like, I think the Rams traded for Jahan Dotson like last year late, and he turned to be a superstar. Like, the Steelers must be just like ripping their hair out from that one. Like, that's like a 1-of-1 kind of situation where you see like a guard flip in the summer and turn out to be good. Like, it just rarely doesn't happen. So like I agree with you how he's going to be eyeing the waiver wire, but it's probably going to be the guys that are on the roster going into week 1.
All right, so we got the final preseason game is on Saturday. Obviously, the offense is pretty much set. You're not going to see anybody. You might still see some contributors on defense play on Saturday as they still to try to figure out roles. Who are you? Let me rephrase this. Who outside of Cooper DeJean, because I'm sure Cooper DeJean is who everybody is watching Saturday for solely. Outside of Cooper DeJean, who are you watching Saturday's football game for that can maybe make one final statement to either make the roster or get significant playing time week 1 against Green Bay?
Jeremiah Chata Jr. I know it's the homer pick, but I love it. His pops was one of my favorite players growing up. I really just wanted to carve out a nice career here with the Eagles. It would be a really cool story. And I thought he played really well. I was the first preseason game, and then I think he struggled a little bit last game. So it's kind of up and down, but I would like there's a hole for playing time here right now. Like, they seem to really love Zach Bond. Sounds like Zach Bond's gonna be the guy week 1 next to Devin White, and we'll see. He hasn't played a ton of outside linebacker in his career. He's been kind of a tread from edge rusher as well with the New Orleans Saints. Like, he's been all over the place, but like, when it's so weird, the discourse around him in the building, like Nick Sirianni went on like a 30-second rant about 2 weeks ago about how much of a competitor Zach Bond is. Vic Fangio brings him up all the time. Like, they really love him there. And I'm not there, but like, I just don't, it baffles me why Zach Bond is like their propaganda on the defense. And Devin White's gonna have a starting spot, but like, I really do think there's an opportunity here for a Jeremiah Chata Jr. and a Kobe Dean to maybe leapfrog Zach Bond, and the preseason games are going to be key here too. So that's the guy. And then I think I just saw on your screen I was going to bring up. I like Jalix Hunt was a guy that I wrote about at the Score for my 10 underrated prospect piece that I do every year. I was high on him. I really do think that I did think he was a perfect fit with the Eagles. I didn't
Mhm.
think he was going to go as early as the 3rd round. I thought they were going to be able to get him in the 4th, but I thought it was a perfect match. He visited, like the Eagles targeted him as a visit as well during the draft process. And he's been showing up. Like a lot of the beat writers are saying that he's been a surprise at camp. I think he beat Fred Johnson for 2 sacks at the last training camp practice from what I saw. It sounds like he's like not going to be this redshirt freshman that I think I included.
That's kind of what I assumed he was going to be. It's a great way to put it. Redshirt freshman. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like he's going to get playing time at the gate. So I'm curious about him too, but they're probably not going to play a ton of guys that we're going to be able to discuss on Sunday or Monday. Like it's going to be a lot of backups. The most intriguing part is to look at who plays and who doesn't. Like that's where you get the most information of more than actually watching the guys on the field.
Back to the linebackers. I actually have said it a couple times, kind of sarcastically, but kind of maybe I'm exaggerating when I say it, but I keep saying that Zach Bond and Devin White won't be your starting linebacker duo by week 3.
Yeah, week 3 might be a tad early, but I'm with
Dean
you.
Or Trotter steal one of those roles. I already see almost like a rotation starting to form at linebacker, and then one, if not 2. I think Trotter and Dean will be the starters in 2025 as long as everybody stays healthy and whatnot.
That would be ideal. Like that was like I Devin White was another one. Like that was probably my least favorite. I've never been a big Devin White guy, but maybe he can resurrect his career as a 1st-round pick. He played really well during that Bucs Super Bowl run, but like since then it's been kind of downhill. But he's going to carve out. He's already got the starting spot locked in. Yeah, like they continue just to throw dart throws at this position, and maybe this is the year it hits because last year, like it was funny, like when I was doing research for the division preview episode for the NFC East, I forgot like Shaq Leonard was on the roster last year. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just been an absolute turnstile at the position. So I really hope by the Trotter Jr. and Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond can kind of hold it down this year.
I think it just comes to health with Nakobe Dean and then Trotter just getting that experience. Anyway, guys, we're talking to Brendan Deeg here, NFL news editor for the Score, host of the Double Doink podcast. Got to start the wrap-up process here, but I got 2 things I want to talk to you about, just slightly off of football. Every guest has to answer one question for the commenters, and they're all just waiting. I can just tell the quietness in the comments are waiting. Every guest has to answer. We're on a 2-game winning streak with guests here with one answer. You can only watch one movie for the rest of your life. It has to be either The Godfather or Goodfellas. You have to pick one. Which one is it?
Oh my God, I might get carved here. I have never seen The Godfather.
Whoa!
So I have to go Goodfellas. I've never seen The Godfather. No, I'm an absolute clown for that. I'm aware, but yeah, my mom. I actually had this conversation with my mom about this the other day. Like, it's just about movies I haven't seen. Like, I've never seen the Titanic. I've never seen The Godfather. There's been a few. Like, I need to get my ass on the couch and start watching these old flicks.
Stop I've seen football and watch these movies.
Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies of all time, so I'll go with Goodfellas.
Look at this here. K1 say now, you know.
I'm sorry, K1.
You did not win a new listener to your podcast with that comment right there.
I'll next time I have 3 hours of my day, I'll sit down and watch it.
Exactly, because you need to carve out a lot of time to watch those movies. One other thing I wanted to bring up, and I hope I'm not out of line doing this, but you know, I've been following you for a long time. We've done work together before, and I just wanted to shout you out. I've seen your recent posts, non-football related, about your health journey, your sobriety journey, and I wanted to say thank you, because I think when people in your position with platforms promote that stuff publicly, it really helps. And the weight loss part of it, the health part of it, has motivated me a little bit, and I'm starting to put together a plan myself. So I want to say how I don't know if you realize when you put that kind of stuff out there public, how it does help people and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you, man, and no worries at all. I'm very open about this right now.
Yeah.
When
I remember bringing that up once to a guest before, something similar to that, and they kind of afterwards like, I didn't like that question being thrown in there. So
yeah, no, I'm actually so yeah, full disclosure. Struggled with drug and alcohol addiction for a majority of my life, from like my 20s to kind of when I went into rehab, and I've held it quiet. Like no one besides like my family and some personal close friends knew about it. And then after the NFL draft this year, I could kind of feel my life slipping away a little bit. Like I went on vacation right after the draft. I literally went from my work office, finishing the draft, to the airport for a flight on a bachelor party. And then it kind of was falling apart. And then I kind of had a look in the mirror moment in the middle of June and said, you know what? If I'm gonna make a serious change, it's right now. And I decided to check myself into rehab, and it was the single greatest decision I ever made. And when I was in rehab, I told myself, like, if this is going to work, I have to be open and honest with everyone about it, including my family on social media. Like, I have I have my Canadian, like, I'm from Toronto, Ontario. I have my Canadian family and my personal friends.
There are some comments asking if you're Canadian with the accent. So yeah.
It's funny, like I can't see it, like I can't hear it when I hear my voice, but whenever I'm in Philadelphia, I've been to Philly like 4 times. Everyone could always tell, and I guess you guys can tell as well. But yeah, so like I have my family in Philadelphia on social media, and like I have a lot of close friends that I keep in touch with through DMs and whatnot. I got a lot of phone calls from a bunch of people right after on Twitter, and like I had so many people reach out. And I said, like, I have to be honest with them if this is going to work as well. And it's been great. Like today, I am 71 days sober. I feeling the best I've ever felt my entire life. And I couldn't imagine going back to my old life. And it's because of being open and honest. So if I'll say this, if there's a listener out there that's struggling and needs someone to talk to, my DMs are open because now I have to give back because people have given back to me. And yeah, life is beautiful, man. And I really appreciate bringing this up because I love talking about it. I think there's a stigma around it that needs to go away, and I'd be happy to help everyone on the internet and people that follow me realize that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have these kind of issues, and you shouldn't be hiding it from anyone.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. So, guys, Brendan Deeg, you can find him at Brendan Deeg _. You can find him on The Score. Where can they find the Double Doink podcast?
Yeah, so you can follow my page. I post all my content there. I'm Brendan Deeg at Brendan Deeg _ sorry. Going through division preview series right now. I have a bunch we'll be starting to upload on Monday. I have really cool guests coming on those episodes as well. So I think we're about 3 in. I think we have 5 left to drop. And then the first Eagles only content episode will be out on Wednesday as well. So it's going to be a mix of NFL general content, Eagles only content, and then some gambling stuff, some like week 1 preview stuff dropping on Fridays every week. And then I'm going to mix in some sobriety content as well. I'm going to wait a little bit to kind of see how I want to attack that. But that's something
I started briefly. Me and a friend of mine were doing some mental health shows and stuff like that. And it's a hard thing to open up for an hour or an hour and a half on a show about. It's hard to get that going, but it does help a lot of people. So.
Yeah, and I love sobriety content. It's part of the reason why I decided to make the change and go get help is because I love hearing people's stories about it. So, and if I can help people somehow one person listens and gets help, then it's a success.
That's awesome, guys. Make sure you guys find him. Brendan, thank you for your time this morning. I greatly appreciate it. And we'll do this again sometime during the regular season.
Yeah, Phil, you're the absolute man. Anytime, happy to jump on. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks a lot, guys. That was Brendan Deeg right there. So let's get the wrap up. You guys got 5 minutes of bonus time today. So let's start the wrap up process. But I do ask you guys to give Brendan a follow. Brendan is a fantastic guy and a great Eagles writer and content creator. So find him on social media, find his podcast, show him support, and help him in support of his journey. Because the sobriety and the health thing that he's going through is fantastic to see.